Okay, so on that note, we're going to start, and I'll start the way I start all Writing to Heal sessions by giving God all glory, praise, honor, and thanks. And we begin with prayer. Father in heaven, thank you for bringing us all together today. We pray that your spirit of peace and understanding will descend on us and guide our thoughts, our words, and our writings. Father, we pray that your message of hope will be revealed to each one of us and that we will be inspired to move forward positively, transforming our hurts, our aspirations, and our dreams into true hope according to your will. Bless each participant and the organizers of the pageants. And I especially ask for your continued blessing on the life and work of Delano as he walks deliberately into his purpose and serves us with his special gifts and talents. We pray all of this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. So, somebody's not hearing. If anybody else is not hearing, please let me know. Or if anybody is hearing properly, just give me a little thumbs up or something. Let's just make sure we're all on board. Okay, good. So it might be some on somebody else's part. Thank you so much, Brittany. And Thessaly. Good. So we're going to get you, you'll probably have not a clue what this session is about. We're going to get started. You might find me stopping occasionally, which will just be to let someone else in, including Delano. So I just want to thank you all for joining me this afternoon for this. This is what I call a special edition of Writing to Heal because it's a collaboration with EVP and myself as part of the new pageant initiatives that Delano has undertaken. So I know he's not here, but we're recording and you will be able to tell him as well. I want to thank him for the invitation to share with all of you and to share in this unique event. Welcome to Writing to Heal, Surviving Trauma and Creating a Legacy of Resilience. I want to congratulate all of you for taking personal and collective responsibility for your mental and emotional health as you step into your purpose and your destiny. So over the time that you're going to be spending with me, what we'll do is explore a practical way in which you can use the power already in you to write or create a new narrative, to make meaning out of your story, your life story, that is, and to experience a shift in your perspective. You see, our lives are filled with challenges, and regardless of how big or small those challenges are, they tend to linger in our conscious and our subconscious. And we need time to absorb the things that happen to us before we can live or deal with them. But the important thing is that we do not allow the things that happen in our life to put a stop on the life that we are supposed to live or the life we want to live. You know, you can take courage from the Apostle Paul's words that your struggles build perseverance, which builds character, which gives you hope that is grounded in God's grace and mercy, and which helps you to step confidently into your purpose. And I think that's a big part of the program that Delano has put forward for you all. Today, I'm just going to give you an overview of what we're going to do before we get into it. So will do a brief self-examination or analysis. And don't get scared by anything. It sounds difficult sometimes, but it's really very simple. So after you do your self-examination, I will share a technique for writing or rewriting your way forward before taking you into a pre-writing and a writing activity. And after we do the writing activities, I'll invite you to share your writing. Notice I said to share right? Invite. So it's optional. So don't be scared about it. If you write and you don't like what you write, you don't have to share it. But I'll tell you something. Sharing, no matter how bad you think it is, the sharing is one of the things that helps. And it helps because everybody can contribute something, no matter what you think about it. And the good thing about Writing to Heal is that I am not here, and I don't think anybody else is. I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to help you. And therefore, I believe that, you can share without judgment in here. And later on, you'll see why I'm saying that. Now, it is my hope and prayer that you will be moved enough to share at the end of the experience. The technique that I'm going to share with you is one that you can use long after this session is over, throughout the difficult times in your life. And it can help you to reground yourself, to regroup, and to reset your personal GPS, recognizing that you need to work on yourself every single day. All of us, we have to work on ourselves. No matter how far we think we've come, we need to work on ourselves every single day. Now, before we go into the real meat of the afternoon session, I want to just remind you that there is not one single strategy that can help guarantee that you will get past life's many and varied challenges, that can help you to improve your health, your focus, your productivity, and your creativity, as well as to help you build resilience. You see, what works for somebody mightn't work for somebody else, or it mightn't work as good as, or it might work better than for that person. There are many techniques, but the key to all of this is pushing forward to success in any endeavor, especially in something that is challenging as entrepreneurship. It's all about you taking a set of practices, knitting them together, and making them make sense in the context of your own life and the things that will give you meaning. Now, this particular strategy that I'm going to share with you today is something that worked for me, and I believe that it will work for at least one other person here today. I'm hoping it works for all of you, but at least one other person will benefit today. And even if you don't get something from everything, I'm sure you will get one thing at least out of all that we are going to do today. Now, a critical element in the life of any entrepreneur or any advocate for something such as environmental sustainability is the ability to bounce back from setbacks. Now, before we even go there, I think I need to share with you my screen. That was my objective. I wanted to get to this point here. There it is. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to try to share a lot of it on the screen so that you'll be able to follow along and maybe jot down little notes as we go ahead. So those were our objectives, which I outlined for you before. And we're going to talk a little bit about resilience now. So for any entrepreneur or advocate for environmental sustainability, it's important to be able to bounce back from setbacks using any and all of the resources, skills, and talents that that particular person, in this case you, might have. The ability to reach deep within, to reach out to God and to others in order to overcome. And that element is called resilience. So every entrepreneur, every advocate for environmental sustainability or any important cause, every person like that must have that skill called resilience. And long ago, people believed that resilience was something that a person was either born with or they didn't have it. Now, in fact, over the last 50 years or more, they've realized that resilience is something that can be learned and developed over time. So today what we are going to do is add writing as yet another tool in our resilience kit. And I'm looking forward to hearing what you consider resilience is. And so what I'm going to do is I've shared on the screen there what I think resilience is. And for me, resilience is being able to regroup after setbacks using all available resources, be they financial, emotional, intellectual, social, mental, physical, and any other kind of resource that you might have, so that I can continue walking successfully into my purpose. That's my idea of what resilience is. What I'd like to ask you to do now is think a little bit about what resilience means to you. And if you didn't know what it meant before, think now. You can use my idea also that I put on the screen there. And I want you to think about it and then share in the chat just a very brief note. It doesn't have to be anything long. It could even be one word or a couple of words. What resilience means to you. Now, I'm not asking for a textbook definition. I'm not asking for what anybody else thinks it is, but what it means to you. So don't be afraid to share in the chat, please. And I don't think you'll be, because if you're working with Delano, then you are someone who is confident or building confidence. And so sharing might not be easy, but it's not something you will shy away from. So while you're thinking, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you a little bit about who I am, simply because sometimes it's easier to learn from somebody when you know who is the person you're learning from. You know, it helps a little bit. So already somebody shared that resilience means strength. That's very good. Very, very good. So while you're looking at that, I'm just going to switch so that you can learn a little bit about me before we continue. So as you know, I think my screen sharing, for some reason, it just disappeared there. Right. So what I'll do, I'm going to share it about me a little bit, and then I'll go back to reading some of the comments in the chat, right? So as you already know, my name is Karen Asgarali, for those of you who can't pronounce it, even though you're seeing it there, and it's a difficult name. I'm an educator with over 30 years by now, maybe it's over 35 years of teaching. I was a chemistry teacher. I was not in psychology. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist. I wasn't even an English teacher, even though what I'm sharing with you is a writing experience. And I'm sharing about writing because more than 10 years ago, in 2013, I had no choice but to use writing to communicate to people. You see, what happened back in 2013 is I was injured, seriously injured in an attempted robbery, and I was shot in my face. So just think about that a little bit. As a woman being shot in your face, what you would think that what's the rest of your life going to hold for you. And I was already 47 years old, and I was already divorced and single. So being shot in my face at that point in time was really traumatic at all different levels. I couldn't speak as a result of that, and that's how writing came into it. I won't bore you with the details of my healing and how long it took. It took a long time. And the challenges that I faced in order to be able to sit in front of you today and speak without being too conscious of the way I look. The thing is, by using this technique, this is just one of the many techniques that I use. It's one that I chose to share with you today. But by using this technique, among others, I began to heal. And more than healing, it helped me, it put me on the course to fulfilling my purpose. So I started my own journey of becoming an author. Today I have 5 or 6 published books, including a series of books, inspirational books called Hot Cocoa on a Rainy Day books, and Delano is featured in the latest one of those books. My first book was called From Lion to Lamb, which was a mentor based on the incident of being shot. And then Bounce Back Better, which deals with resilience, which we are talking about today. And then I did a prayer book and then the inspirational series. Now, as I said before, I'm not a therapist. All I am doing today is sharing with you my knowledge and experience just to help you empower yourself along your own journey as I believe you're all very young and therefore starting out and moving towards, a goal that you may have set in the past. So if you're experiencing or have experienced any kind of traumatic setback, or it might not have been a big setback, but any kind of setback that is giving you some kind of um, mental or emotional help, and sometimes you might need to seek professional help. And that's just something I advise along the way, simply because in the society we live in now, people are, there's stigma attached to it, but there's nothing wrong with getting help if you need help. That said, we go into the chat and take a look at some of your resilience definitions. Before I do that, I neglected to tell you one more thing. The one more thing is that I started Writing to Heal a long time ago, but I started putting it out online for people to join in 2020. I think it may have been near the end of 2020 when COVID struck. And I've been doing it continually since then. So looking at your definitions for resilience, I think you're all seeing them, but I'll just read out a couple of them. We have strength, we have to not dwell on the negative of the situation and think of solutions. Yes, very good. Endurance. Being resilient to me is having the ability to build up my confidence. Very good. It means not being afraid of failure. Excellent. It's about having the mental, emotional, or even physical fortitude to power through any difficulty, whether small or big. Wow, yes. And it means having confidence and knowing that failure is a part of success or path to success. Very good. All excellent definitions of resilience, all very personal definitions of resilience. And thank you for sharing those with us. Now, what I'd like to do now is share with you some of the guiding C's. Now, these C's guide us through Writing to Heal, but I want to tell you that more than that, I think that these C's are very important parts of our daily lives, of our interactions with people in general. But particularly, let's keep them in mind for today. First of all, see, you all already showed the courage by joining this program with Delano and by joining in today. See, commitment. Having joined with Delano in particular on this journey that you all are on, and with me for this particular part of the journey, I'm hoping that having found this technique, if you find that it works, that you'll stick with it and that you'll stay to the end of the session today, and know that there are many other sessions very similar to this that I do. Then we have consistency. For anything to work, right? You need to practice it often, regularly. Confidentiality, if something sensitive comes up, I would like if we can keep it within the group, right? And it's something that you should take with you in all aspects of your life. Compassion. This one, I'm sure all of you are already compassionate with others and that you practice it. But I want you to be kind to yourself as well. And as women, especially, we tend to not be as compassionate with ourselves as we should be. So throughout the session, you may hear me on occasion asking you to be compassionate with yourself as you are with other people. And finally, we have camaraderie. So what I've found is that, when we have group sessions, it's important for us to support each other. And when we do that, what we do is we provide a matrix that pushes each one higher along the hierarchy to self-actualization. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. I wouldn't spend too much time on it, but basically what you all are doing in this program is moving towards self-actualization. So there we have our C's, and it's just something to keep in mind in all your interactions, but particularly for this evening. Now, remember that all success, and your program is about success, all success and all healing from things that could prevent us from achieving our success begins with reflection. And reflection is really the purposeful and deliberate consideration of past incidents, your reactions during those incidents, your emotions, and whatever lessons you would have learned from them. And in the last cycle of Writing to Heal, that I thought for the very first time I met someone who could not identify lessons that she learned from her. She did go through a terrible experience, but she couldn't identify any lessons from them. And I said to her, no matter how bad an experience is, you can extract something to learn from it. And I think that's something you should keep in mind. In all the things that you do, what is the lesson that comes out of it? And that lesson could be as simple as learning not to do something that you did before, not to be friends with somebody, or to get rid of something from your life. But always look for the lessons in the things that happen to you. Be purposeful and deliberate. Two keywords, purposeful and deliberate. So when I talk about reflection, I'm not talking about rehearsing. Rehearsing is where you plan your responses or actions for a future time. I'm not talking about rehashing. Rehashing is where you play the same incident over and over in your mind. Rehearsing and rehashing to a point have some benefit, but if you overdo those things, they become self-destructive habits. I know that very well because it's something I used to do, and maybe I still do it, but I've learned to reflect more than to do either one of those two. And let me just give you a quick example. So, for example, you're talking to somebody and they say something, and you want to respond to them, but in the spur of the moment, you couldn't think about what to say. And you go home and you start to think, I should have said this, I should have said that. And you keep playing the same thing over and over in your mind. And for days and days, that stays with you. That's called rehashing. That's not something you want to do. That does not help you. There's several ways you can help yourself not rehash. One of the ways is to say your prayers and leave it all in the hands of God. The other way is to reflect. And we're going to learn a little bit about reflection in a little while. And then there's rehearsing, which is where, okay, so having not come up with the correct response at that time when the person insulted you, you sit down now, you've rehashed, and then you said, you know what? This is the right thing I should have said at that time. And then you sit down and you plan about the next time I meet this person, this is what I'm going to say, or this is what I'm going to do. And you keep going over and over this thing and trying to improve it and make it better. That's rehearsing. It's putting yourself in a situation that's maybe not going to be helpful to the other person as well, and definitely not to you. And you keep playing it over and over and over. You want to reflect so that you can understand what happened, how you reacted, how you could have learned something, how you could take that lesson now and help to improve yourself and maybe help the other person in the process. Notice I said help the other person too. Our lives should be dedicated to always building up and not breaking down other people. So, before we begin the actual Writing to Heal, we must have a good starting point, and our starting point is answering the question, what are the guiding principles in our lives? What are our core values? On the screen, I have just a few examples just to give you an idea to get you kick-started. What I'd like you to do now is to write. I think you all have pens and paper, or if you want to type, you can type, but I prefer the writing. If you can write down, usually if you're doing this practice on your own, I would suggest write as many core values as you want. For today, let's just write maybe 2 or 3, or as many as 5 if you have enough time. Guiding principles or core values, and they're not always what we think they are. We only think about integrity and honesty and kindness and so on, but it could include things like life, work balance, sustainability, beauty, education, all of those kinds of things. So think for a few minutes. I'll pause very briefly and give you time to write your core values. Someone put hope, yes. Make sure you have a record of them too, right? Write them down in your pages as well. And you can share them as Shania did in the, it's Shania, right? Did in the chat. Share them, because what I'd like to do at the end of our session today, I'd like to put these things, these core values together in some form, like in an image or something, and share it back with Delano. So I'd appreciate if you do share your core values in the chat. I'll try to stay quiet to give you time to think. Doesn't always work. But it's important for the activity that we're going to do later on. So make sure you think about them, right? It might be something like exercise and fitness. It could be family, friends, faith. Think deeply about the things that really matter to you and write down at least 3, as many as 5. But remember, when you're doing this practice on your own, you can write as many as you want. You see, the thing about it, I'll go to read them in a little while. The thing about it is that if you know your core values, then you know when and where you are heading, when you are heading to your divine destiny. And because then you know that the things you are doing align with your core values. And then you will know you are living with purpose. And you will know if success is what is in your life. And then you know what it really means to you as well. And so we have lots of things in our chat. Let's see. So we had hope. We have self-respect, truth, service, integrity, authenticity, and continuous growth, passion, compassion, gratitude, staying teachable, integrity, wonderful, all wonderful, hope, healthy relationships, hobbies, service to community, confidence, self-care, self-love, beauty, kindness. Wow, you all are amazing. And you came up with all of that in a very, very short time. Thank you for sharing all of that. So, I'll continue in the interest of time. If you need me to stop at any time, just let me know. We all have hurts and we all will encounter difficulties, and we will all question if we are living our purpose and if we are successful, even if we already are. So, to the onlooker, your life might seem perfect, but inside, you will feel sadness. You may be feeling sadness. You may feel unworthy. And, I felt immeasurable sadness when my life crashed so many years ago. But I tried my best not to let people see the extent. I mean, they obviously had to see how bad I was feeling, but not to let them see really how bad my devastation was. My heart was broken. I felt alone, dispirited. I felt useless. But what I found was that with reflection, faith, and prayer and letting go of the past, forgetting, I was able to move forward. And forgetting and forgiving, those are very difficult words. They seem like easy words, but they're difficult things to actually do. And writing can help do that because it helps you take things out from your organic database and put it down on paper, and eventually you can just get rid of it. It doesn't go away right away, and it may not go away completely, but it makes it a lot easier to deal with things. So that's something we're going to do. And it's something that we actually do in the full Writing to Heal program, which is a free service, by the way. So I'm not trying to put something onto you where you have to, yeah. Okay, no, that's okay, Royal. We appreciate that. Don't worry. As long as others are, we have interaction, that's important. I want everybody to interact, but if we can't have you, that's fine. So, today we are going to use just one of the many techniques that I teach in Writing to Heal, and the technique today is called legacy writing. And all I can do is share the technique with you, but you have to do the work. And by doing the work, holding on to your faith, this could be a transformational experience for you. And I'm saying that not because I'm sharing it with you, but I'm saying it based on the testimony of many previous Writing to Heal participants. So before we continue, I want to thank you all and Delano for joining me, for trusting me, and I make no outlandish promises, but I sit before you as a testimony of the power of reflective writing as a tool for healing, resilience, productivity, and purpose. And on that note, um, we begin our Writing to Heal. Let me just shift my. So, if you ever do, or if you have ever done Writing to Heal with me, you would know that I always like to start off with a quotation, and I found this one and I really like this one. So, legacy writing is a tool for healing and forward motion, and this is what we're going to be using. And this quote from Shannon L. Alder, who happens to be an author, it's fitting. It says, "Carve your name on hearts, not tombstones. A legacy is etched into the minds of others and the stories they share about you." And this reminds me about what Maya Angelou had to say. She said, what affects people is not just the things you say, but it's the way you make them feel, how you treat people. And that's really what this is speaking about. It's about touching people where it matters the most in a compassionate, caring, loving way. And it's not necessarily about the material things in life. I'm not saying the material things are not important, but treating people is very, very important in this life and the next. So you want to leave a legacy that's material, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you also want to leave a legacy that's etched into the hearts and minds of people and the things that they're going to say about you. So I would like to share. I thought I had it here, apparently not. So I go back. I thought I had something here for you, but I don't. So we're going to talk a little bit about what is a legacy. A legacy is something that's left behind for future generations. That's what we know about it. We think about a legacy as something somebody leaves when they die. But if you look on the screen beyond leaving something behind, right, you can also leave it. You can also have it for the present generation. So you can have a legacy, or you can build your legacy, or you're supposed to be building your legacy as you go through your life. And sometimes you can make that legacy immediately available for the people you love. What is legacy writing then? Legacy writing is linked to legacy. As you can see on the screen there, and I'm hoping that you're making notes, legacy writing is a way of documenting your experiences, your life experiences, your values, your opinions, and thereby being able to share those things with others. It can be a cherished gift to your family and loved ones. And more importantly, it can bring healing and direction for you as you write. Because when you put these things down in writing, you get clarity. And it kind of clears the way and tells you, listen, this is the way I'm heading, but this is not where I want to be. I should be doing other things. Or it can tell you, yeah, I'm heading in the right direction. I just have to do more of this or less of that. So, what exactly are some of the things you want to leave as a legacy of resilience? So, I'm going to leave that on the screen while I tell you a little bit about what are some of the things you want to leave as a legacy of resilience. You want to leave behind a legacy that reveals those things that you valued most. So it could be those material things we talked about, but you can also go deeper than that for things that are going to last. Because let's face it, maybe if you leave gold, that will last forever, right? Yes. But gold could be stolen, it could be lost. But the things that really are going to last are the things that you thought was your purpose and what you learned from life. When you teach somebody else that or you leave that behind for others, if you think about people like Martin Luther King, about Mother Teresa, and so on, what they left behind was the things they did, the way they taught, the values that they had. So that's the kind of legacy you want to leave behind. You might want to share how you navigated the challenges that came up in your life or how you enjoyed the beauty of things around you every single day, including your challenges. You can find beauty in things that are bad. So that's why if you look at my screen, my slides, I have almost everything is black, but in somewhere in the middle there's that yellow. And let me just go back. I think I had it more. It was better here. You see, there's that yellow. That's what I think about. Your legacy is, or you should be that, or even your emotions and the things that you think about something, the lessons that you learned should be that yellow that stands out against the blackness of your challenges. That's the reason why I chose these slides. So you want to share what you valued, you want to share your purpose, you want to share what you learned in life and, even your challenges. And you maybe want to share how you made time to reflect along your life's journey as you sought to live a life filled with purpose. So everybody could leave a legacy. The thing is, what kind of legacy are you going to leave behind? What type do you want to leave? Legacy writing can help you make that choice. It can help you to leave something of value through which somebody who you know and you love might get to know you at a profound, deep, personal level. Because when you clearly write your values, your purpose, your beliefs, and the lessons that you learned, what you can do is answer questions that somebody maybe wanted to ask you, but they didn't get a chance, or they just felt that they couldn't ask you, or maybe they didn't even know they had that question that they wanted to ask you, but you provided the answer anyway. So legacy writing addresses our our universal human needs, our own personal needs, the needs of which we sometimes are not aware. And those needs include things like the need to belong, the need to be known, to be remembered, to make a difference, to bless and be blessed, and to celebrate life. You see, life can change in a flash, but by writing down, you can leave a legacy of love, peace, faith, hope, and all of those good things, plus resilience, all of those good things that you wrote about in the chat, plus resilience for those that you love. So, you got a lot so far. I'm just going to pause very, very briefly there just to catch my breaths and switch to the next slide so you're all ready for what we're going on to do. And while that's on the screen, before you even write that, there are some things that I did not put on the screen, but I think I need to share them with you. When you're using writing, and this applies to all the other styles of writing that I talk about, but it also applies to what we're doing today. Sometimes it's difficult to know how much to write, how much time you need to spend. When you hear writing, you think, oh gosh, I have to sit down for the rest of the evening and write. You don't need that. Writing like this for healing and for helping you grow, you really just need between 15 minutes, 30 minutes maximum at a time. 30 minutes maximum, right? Hear that some people sit for hours, even an hour, and they write. And that's okay, but you really don't need all of that. 15 minutes, maybe even as little as 10 minutes to half an hour. And the thing about this technique and many of the other techniques is that you don't necessarily have to use them every single day. You can just use them when you need a reset or whenever you feel like you need it, or just when you have the time. Maybe you have some spare time and you think, what can I do now? Right? What's important though is that you establish some kind of routine for writing. So whenever you decide to write, let it be either very early in the morning before anybody else is up, when your head is clear, when you're alone and you don't have many distractions and you have a lot of energy. Or you can do it at the end of a day when everybody else is asleep and you want to reflect on the day that you had. But it's what's most important is just that you set aside that time after writing to reflect. So you have a time for writing, 10 to 15 minutes. You have a total time of 30 minutes, so you have enough time to reflect after you write and to reflect on what you wrote and maybe improve on it as you read it over. And when I talk about this writing, it doesn't have to be the best writing. It doesn't have to be massive, those big words that people use. It doesn't have to even be grammatically correct because you're doing this for yourself. As you go ahead and you edit, yes, every time you read it over, you find a mistake, you fix it, that's fine. So you have a time for writing, make sure it's a set time. You want to create a unique environment for writing, a place where you don't typically do anything else. Make sure it's comfortable, it's secure, your lighting is good, your seating is good, and have some kind of ritual that you start off your writing with. For some people, it might just be to grab a cup of coffee or tea or whatever it is. In my case, I begin always with giving God thanks, reading the Bible, saying a prayer, having a cup of coffee, and then going into my writing. You want to get the best mode of writing. For some people, it might be a book and paper. For some people, it could be a special journal, a computer, pen, pencil, blue ink, red ink, black ink, purple ink, green ink. It only matters that whatever you are using, you are comfortable enough that it will allow you to write. I prefer using the writing with pen and paper because it tends to stick and it tends to make a difference because there's some kind of connection between the brain and the hand. So, before we go into the actual writing, I want to share something that you may already know, or maybe you might be seeing it for the first time, but it's important that when you are setting goals, and setting goals are important because if you don't know where you're heading, as I said before, you could end up just going anywhere and not necessarily going where you want to be or where you should be. So I'm just going to share a little bit with you. I'm going to stop this share and share something with you now. If any of you want it, you can just leave it in the chat or let Delano know, and I can always forward it to you all at some point in time through Delano. If you already know it, that's great. So I'm going to share this now with you, and we're going to very briefly look at this before we go into our actual writing exercise. So I mentioned self-actualization along the way. And some of you may have come across this. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And this has evolved over time, and I think it's still evolving, but I like this one where it shows that there's a progression in our needs and in our becoming who we are meant to be. And what it tells us is that we're looking at the bottom. You notice that the bottom is the widest. You should be able to see a triangle in the midst there. And at the bottom of that triangle, we have physiological needs, which refers to our things like food and shelter and so on, the basic needs. And as long as those needs are met, then we could go into safety needs, which would be things like personal security, employment, health, and so on. Once those other needs are met, then we go to our higher needs, which would be our sense of love and belonging, family, community, and so on. Then, if those three basic needs are met, then we can go into esteem, where we look at our respect and self-esteem and status and so on. Once we have all of those other needs met, then we begin to go into self-actualization, which is the desire to become the most that we can possibly become. And sometimes you don't have to just go with that progression. You might find things overlapping. You might find that, you might be able to skip a level, although I don't know how effective that is. I think we need to have some basic things in place before we get to self-actualization. But that's what we're doing here today. We are on the road to self-actualization and using this as one of the techniques. And that's what you're doing through the pageants that you all are in. And goal setting is just another thing I briefly want to mention with you. And if you don't have this or never came across it, it's fine to take a screenshot. I'm okay with that. So we have goal setting, and there are different ways and techniques for setting goals. And I don't know if you all grew up knowing about goal setting, but back in the day when I grew up, it wasn't something I was deliberately told about. I didn't know how to go about setting a goal. I knew vaguely what I wanted, but there are specific ways to set goals. And this is one of the ways. It's called a SMART way, SMART, which is an acronym for those words on the screen: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound, and so on. Essentially, what that is telling you is the more detailed you are in setting your goal, the more likely it is you're going to achieve your goal. And what also helps is if you have at least one other person supporting you. So you may have heard about the concept of an accountability buddy, but that's where you have someone else with the same type of mindset that you have, a teachable. Somebody mentioned that somewhere, where you believe in learning and so on, somebody with similar values to yours to help you as you move along. So you understand, you see how things are tying up now. We talk about purpose, we talk about goal setting, we talk about self-actualization, we talk about core values. We're going to use all those things, bring them together into writing our legacy narrative, which is a style of writing we are going to do today. I'm going back to the slides now and pause briefly. I have a 10-second rule that I didn't share with you all yet. The 10-second rule is where, I just pause for 10 seconds and give you an opportunity to either ask a question or make a comment. So we pause briefly for 10 seconds before I just talk a little bit about the slide that you have up on the screen. Right, so there are 3 types of legacy writing, and today we will do just one of those types. Today we are going to write for 10 minutes only. But when you're writing on your own, you'll see I have there write for at least 20 minutes. Yeah, you can go with the 20 minutes, or you can do the second one, the last one on the screen there. You can write for 3 10-minute segments. taking 10-minute breaks between each session. There's a scientific backing for that last technique, and that's why I put it in there. By breaking down your writing into smaller segments, you kind of focus your brain a little more. You tend to be more productive, and taking those breaks between kind of recharges you before each writing session. So it's your choice. You either, when you're doing it on your own, you either write 20 to 30 minutes at one time or break it down into smaller segments. But just to remind you, today we are only going to write for 10 minutes. There are 3 options for legacy writing. We have where you can write a legacy blessing. You can write a legacy of gratitude and joy, or you can write a legacy narrative. I will give you some brief examples, some brief ideas about how to do options 1 and 2, but we are going to spend more time doing option 3. So, choice number 1 is our legacy blessing. In the legacy blessing, this is not about you, but that's one of the keys in life. Service, helping other people, redirecting the attention from yourself onto others. That's a blessing to you as well as to the other person. So that's what legacy blessing is about. It's about writing a blessing to someone, affirming their gifts and talents. It offers advice that you think will be most helpful to them, and that advice usually comes from your life experiences, particularly with things that you believe that person might be going through as well. In that legacy blessing, you give them permission to allow themselves to have happiness and love and peace in their lives when you are no longer with them. And that doesn't only mean if you transition from this life to the next, but it means that's just what life is. You have people in your life for a reason or for a season, right? So some people are there just for a short time, like I will be in your life just for a short time. But when I leave, I'm hoping to leave you this legacy blessing of the session that we just did, right? So when I say to bring, it's okay for you to enjoy yourselves. It's okay for you to come back to using these things, taking down notes and using it. I want you to be able to learn and to grow and to have a good life, even when I'm not around. That's what you're going to be saying to the person you write this legacy blessing. And then you let them know that they were a blessing to you as well, right? So you're blessing them with something, but you're letting them know how good they were to you as well. And you might think that I'm doing this for Delano, I'm doing it for you, but you all are helping me, because what I have found is that every single time I share my programs, I grow a little more. And I always discover something new, because I always try to add something new. Even if I don't add it to the program, I do extra reading, and I always learn something new. So you, me being able to teach you or to share with you, this is a blessing for me as well. So that's what a legacy blessing is all about. Choice number 2, we have, let me just put you all there, the legacy of gratitude and joy. This is where you write a statement, or I'm saying a statement there, but it's more than a statement. You want to write an essay or a poem or something more substantial than just one line, of gratitude and joy about. It could be about a person, it could be about an event or a life experience. So if I were all of you, what I would do, you can do it while you're going through the pageant with Delano, or you can do it at the end of the whole pageant, whether you end up as, I'm not sure if his pageants have an eventual winner, but let's just say there's going to be one winner, but you went through the process, you are not the winner, that's okay. you're still going to be able, you would have learned a lot going through the process. So you want to write a statement of gratitude and joy. It could be about Delano. It could be about the day of the event. It could be about none of that. It could be about something in your life that you went through. You can write a piece. Let's call it a piece, not a statement. So you see, I just learned something. I have to fix this slide and change statement to piece. So it could be an essay, a poem, whatever you want to write about this person, event, or life experience. You can choose, you'll see the second one there, I have your most enjoyable experience. I want to modify that and tell you because I did extra reading and I thought about it more than the extra reading. I think it should be about not just your most enjoyable experience, but you can choose maybe a bad experience and search for the good in that bad experience and share what you were grateful and joyful for about it. Maybe it brought you to a good place. So I am not happy or grateful or thankful that something bad happened to me back in 2013, but I have gratitude and joy that it happened because it has brought me to being here with you all today. So you can choose any experience that you've been through to do your legacy of gratitude and joy. What's important is that you describe in that piece, whether it's a poem or whatever, a story, a narrative, describe how you felt, what you thought, what was said to you, who was with you, where you were, and so on. I don't know if you get the point, but the point is you want to go into details. What's important is that out of the details, you can pull out lessons, things that you not just learn, but things that you have come to appreciate. You know, the things that may have been bad that brought out good things or that helped you to create good things. So that's what this legacy of gratitude and joy is all about. And then we have choice three, a legacy narrative. This is where you can write a short story or a poem about yourself. Now, this is the one we are going to do today. And don't be scared about anything. I don't think you all are people who are scared, easily scared. But sometimes, no matter how confident we are, we do second guess ourselves. Don't second guess yourself today. You can do it. And I know you can have led many people through things like this and they didn't think they could write and they did. The legacy narrative, it's meant for you to share things that you valued with others and it can help you to self-actualize. And this is what we are going to zone in on today. So don't be scared. I'm going to give you step-by-step guidelines, right? So it's going to be easy. And what I did today, earlier today, I modified my slides because I didn't want you just listen to me talk. I know we have different types of learners. So I wanted to have everything on the screen so that you would be able to get, you don't have to answer everything, but you'll be able to get all of it down anyway. Right. On the screen, we have an example of what someone did as a legacy writing. Although it was supposed to be a narrative, this person turned it into this type of poem, and I'm just putting it on to show you that you're not limited. Let your creativity roam and don't think that what you're doing is wrong or right. As long as you're able to use some of the information that you will write down in something called your pre-writing and put a piece together, you would have done the exercise correct. I'd like someone to volunteer to read the poem on the screen, please. Don't be shy. Anybody could just unmute and read. And while whoever is reading, we all think about what we reading there. And if anybody wants to comment on it after, very briefly, we'll have a little time for that.
Hi.
Hi, Karishma.
I
Thank
can
you so much. Yes.
Yeah. Um, okay, so tumultuous beauty, my life, a sublime existence, pulled by triumphs, pushed by trials, laughter, love, compassion, yellow highlights brightening the gray, scars unseen and seen, proudly proclaiming my victory, moments of reflection, preceded changes and corrections, sharing stories rooted in my past or ongoing till the last. My thoughts, my purpose, my values revealed, my essence distilled, my soul bared, and I am fulfilled. With blessings and gratitude, boldly I prefer me, unmask my legacy of resilience.
Thank you so much, Karishma. Would anybody like to share anything they gained from this or anything that stood out for them? You can put it in the chat or you could unmute. Right, so I'm going to move on. If something comes to you, you can put it in the chat, but I'll just briefly tell you that if you look at it, it talks about your life is going to be filled with challenges. And even as you go through this pageant, this training or program for the pageant, you're going to have moments when you're full of confidence, but moments when you're filled with self-doubt. The idea is that you keep moving forward. If you know who you are, if you know your purpose, if you know what your core values are, then you are going to be able to move forward. Whether you win or not, you're going to emerge successful and you are going to be resilient as a result of it. And resilience is an important characteristic for us to have or to develop, a trait for us to develop in our lives. Okay, so let's go to the next slide and we are going to do a pre-writing activity now. So I invite you to sit comfortably, preferably with your feet firmly planted on the ground, 2 feet on the ground. And I want you to place your hand on your diaphragm, which is that area just below your lungs and between your lungs and your stomach. And I want you to inhale from your diaphragm. So you want to feel your diaphragm moving up and then down as you breathe in and you breathe out. The reason why we do this breathing exercise is because many reasons, right? One is to just get us less stressed, but we want to breathe in all some oxygen, lots of oxygen, and get our cells oxygenated and thinking clearly. And I like to think of this as breathing in the goodness of God. And when we breathe out all the toxicity in our bodies, the things that are holding us back from being the best that we can be. And if you do it, really think in those things, it makes a big difference. So we are going to breathe in for the count of 2. No, I think I have for a count of 5 there. We are going to breathe in for a count of 5. We are going to hold that breath before we exhale for a count of 6. So we're breathing in 5, we're breathing out 6. And as we breathe in, we are breathing in the goodness of God. And as we breathe out, we are breathing out all negativity. And we're going to repeat it for maybe 2 times. Now, I'm not going to be able to do it properly because I want to count for you all. But even though I don't do it properly, I always feel a little more relaxed after doing it and ready to do the exercise with you. So if you do it properly, you should feel like a weight on your shoulder being lifted, and your shoulders should start to drop and you should feel a little relaxed and ready to go. So let's begin on the count of 1. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold it. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. Now you can continue. I hope you're feeling a little better there. You can continue with your deep breaths, or you can just go back to our normal breathing. When you're doing this activity on your own, and I recommend you do it not every day, but maybe every 2 weeks, maybe every month or a couple months, always try to start with your deep breaths, and you can do it for more than 2 times. Now I'm going to ask the questions that are on the screen. Usually I don't put them on the screen, but I'm going to ask them on the screen. You do not have to answer every single thing, meaning if I say 5 words, you could use less, but try to get in as many as you can. So number 1, and let me just, before we continue, when you're doing this on your own, even if I put 2 or I put 5, you just list as many as you want when you're doing them on your own. But for today, we're going to try to limit it simply because of time. So, for what are you grateful? And write down not more than 2 things. For what are you grateful? It doesn't have to be what you're grateful for today only, but generally or specifically for today. Right. So this pre-writing, you may share it in the chat if you want, but you don't have to. This is for you to write for your writing. You're going to be doing a piece just now that you're going to share with all of us. I'm glad if you share it here too. There's nothing wrong with this. I'm very happy if you do. So for what are you grateful? Not more than 2. Then you want to think about what is the thing that wakes you up? What do you jump out of bed for on mornings? What gets you going on a morning? Why don't you just pull the blankets and go back to sleep? What gets you up on mornings? Think about it and write down at least one thing. I'm sure we all have different things that will get us up, but at least one thing that gets you up and going. Ah, nice, Royal. Then I want you to think about what people say about you. And if you can't think about what people say about you, what you think about yourself, right? So even though I have their words that people use to describe your character, you know yourself better than people. So what are 5 words that people use to describe your character? And yes, there are people who think bad things about us no matter how good we are. We're not talking about those people. We're talking about people who value us, right? So we want to write 5 good words that describe our character. We're getting some really, really wonderful answers here. I'm really loving these things. Yeah. Generational curses. Tell me about them. Pursuing my passions. Yeah. Now, oh, I've meant to tell you, if there is anything in the writings that you in the pre-writing activities that you don't want to share with us, you don't have to share it, but try to be specific. And in the actual writing, you can leave out the things that you don't want to share with us, right? So I don't know if that's clear. I mean, I'm going to ask you to read what you write. So make sure when you're reading it's something that you don't mind sharing with all of us. So now go back to your list of core values and select just 1 or 2 of them, just 1 or 2 of your core values, right? And just write it back down on a sheet of paper there so it'll be easy reference for you. Then list 5. I would recommend those 5 when you're doing it on your own. But for today, I want you to list 1 or 2 of your strengths. Think about the ones that are what you think of as your greatest strengths. So list 1 or 2 of your greatest strengths. And I'll pause just to give you some time to think and write. So your strengths might be that you're a good listener, you're a good counselor, you're a good advice giver. Maybe you can make the best cup of coffee. Maybe you are a great cook, good baker. Maybe you're good at leading people, good at decorating, good at whatever it is you're good at. So list 5 of your strengths. Maybe you are able to deal with difficult people. Maybe you can control your temper. I consider that a great strength. Maybe maybe you are dealing with anxiety and depression and you were strong enough to go to a professional for help. That's an excellent strength right there. You might not think you're strong, but you're very strong just to go and get that help. And finally, what do you think is your purpose? This is very important. What do you think is your purpose? If you can't answer it, that's okay. Don't be hard on yourself right now. I do have a program where I teach writing your purpose. But maybe you have an idea or a vague idea of what you think your purpose is. If you don't know what your purpose is, that's okay. Think about where your life is heading right now and maybe where you think you want to be in the future and use that for your answer for number 7, right? And what do you think is meant by success? So really what I'm asking you there is, 1, what is your purpose? And 2, paint a picture or describe in words what success is for you. That's important because you want to be able to know if you are successful in the things that you're doing. And success doesn't only have to be making $1 million a year, right? It could be so much more than that. So you have to know what you think success is, not success by worldly standards, not success by what your parents or your spouse or anybody else thinks, but what success is for you. So those are our pre-writing activity questions, and you should have some notes jotted down. And now we go into the actual writing. It's not true. So in the writing activity, you're going to write a short story, or you can write a poem. I'll go back to the poem we read earlier and leave it up, and you can use it to help you structure your own poem. You could even use the same first line and the same last line, but you can use it to help you structure your thoughts into something like a poem. A poem doesn't have to be rhyming only. Right. So you're going to write that story or poem. You will have an opening. All writing should have an opening. So you're going to start by identifying who the story is written for. You're going to describe, not the incident, you're going to describe, this doesn't seem to be like the activity I had planned for us, but it probably is. You're going to identify, let me just go back a little bit, right? You're going to identify, first of all, in the opening, who are the people you're going to be writing this thing for, whether it's friends or family members. Write down what I'm saying, and then I'll go back to that next slide because I'm going to change it up slightly. Then you want to go into given the context. In the context, you're going to describe the things that are important to you, your strengths, what gets you up on mornings and that kind of thing, right? The context and your story, you're going to merge those two things, giving details as far as possible. And then you're going to include your learning, which would be like your core values and the strengths and so on. And then you're going to end with a blessing to anyone who reads your legacy narrative. You'll notice, regardless of the type of legacy, we always try to leave with a blessing to somebody else, right? So you're going to write a short story with an opening. You're going to have the body where you're going to write about um, these things from question, the pre-writing activity, all the way down to number 7. And then you're going to have a closing, which is a blessing that you're going to leave for the person who is reading your legacy narrative. Any questions on what you're going to be writing? Okay, so what I'm going to do is leave this up. Remember what I said, you could use this as a guide, how to make the length of your lines and so on, and notice that they don't have to be rhyming necessarily. It helps, but you don't have to rhyme. Don't worry too much about question marks, full stops, commas, grammar, anything. You just write. Nobody's going to judge you. You will be able to edit your work on your own afterwards and fix it and spruce it up as best as you want. But for today, you have 10 minutes. You want to get something done in those 10 minutes using your pre-writing activity to create a story about yourself that will be a blessing for somebody who reads it later on, but which will also give you direction for where you are heading in the future. If there are no questions, I'm going to start the timer for 10 minutes, and I'm going to mute myself so I will stop talking. Okay, so there we go. Yeah. Yeah, that was our timer for 10 minutes going off. I know some of you probably still writing, you're still getting your final thoughts down. That's fine. Take a little extra time. What I'd like to invite you to do at this time, though, is if you are finished and don't mind sharing your writing, please put in the chat finished and willing to share. Even if you don't want to share, still put finished. So if you put finished alone, I'll think you're finished, but you don't want to share. If you put finished and willing to share, I'll know that you're finished and willing to share. The reason why I ask you to do that is twofold. One is that I'll know when I'm asking people to share to go in order who finished first. And also, as long as two people have finished, two or three, even if they're not willing to share, I know we can move forward. And we won't just be indefinitely waiting. Good, we have two people, one finished and willing to share, one finished. Very good. So what we'll do in the interest of time, we'll continue. We'll ask, is it Demalia? I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Right, so we'll go with Demalia. So we'll go with Demalia first, followed by Karishma. So it's your floor, Demalia.
Okay. Please ignore my background. You might hear some other people talking.
That's fine. Thank you.
And I also don't know if it really fits with the theme, but I will start.
It's open, so don't worry about if it fits or not. It's good.
Okay. She's a graceful force filled with soul, a sharp mind and roots planted. There is no misunderstanding when she speaks. Great vision and passions on fire. One of her aims is to inspire. Moved to stand on the shoulders of those whom she admires. Grateful for those who came before. They lit the spark for wanting more. To fulfill my purpose and to protect, I thank God for life, health, and for strength. Thank you. That's it.
That's wonderful. And yes, even though you thought you didn't, you did hit the nail on the head. That is a lovely legacy that you left there. It contains things that things about yourself. Ah, yes, Royal, you have it right. On fire, I agree. It's very, very, very well done. Thank you for sharing, Demalia. Karishma, you can feel free.
Thank you.
By the way, before I continue, Demalia, that was
Yeah.
excellent. And I want, if anybody else wants to encourage her or interact with her, now is your time. You can unmute and say something to her. You don't only have to use the chat at this point. And we pause always with the 10-second pause, right? So we'll continue shortly. In the meantime, Karishma is invited to unmute and share her writing with us, please.
Hi. That was really nice, Demalia. Now I feel like mine's not as good as yours.
No, don't compare. I'm sure it's good.
I suppose my approach was more, I guess it's a story or it's more like a journal to myself.
Right.
So or just I just kind of answered those questions, you know.
Yeah, that's good.
So lately what I've been feeling is grateful that my soul was chosen to have this human experience, to experience humanity, to experience emotions, love, pain, and suffering, to be given challenges and the resources to overcome them. Because if not for adversity and problems, how do we evolve and grow? I get up every day to meet with the life I've been blessed with, to exert my free will, as well as be held and guided by the universe. People describe me as loving, kind, a good listener, intelligent, peaceful, compassionate, and a good communicator. And it inspires me to want to embody those things even more. My core values, or what I hope to embody, is to be able to uplift and be of service and align my will to divine will. I think my biggest strengths are simply feeling that I'm blessed and that I'm supported. I hope to continue being a blessing to my world and to always bring love into the space. And with regards to success, I feel a success is to each their own in achieving what they want to achieve for themselves. And for me right now, that's achieving a strong mind, a strong body, and a strong spirit. Yeah, thank you.
That is so beautiful. Very, very well done. And I love your values and your idea of success. I really like that. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Karishma.
Thank you for listening. Yeah.
And you all know you can feel free to unmute if you want to comment or add something. Demalia said that was lovely.
I liked her writing. It was very beautiful, the way she expressed herself.
I agree. And even though she was saying that, it's just answering the questions, you answered them very well. They were eloquent and well put together, so it was very well done. Anybody else before we close? I'll pause for 10 seconds because what I've found is even though people initially didn't want to share after hearing others, they don't mind sharing. So we just pause for 10 seconds if anybody would like to say anything before we wrap up things for this evening and say our final goodbyes. So on that note, I think we have come to the end of our session. I just want to, this here is what I call a post-writing questionnaire. Usually, well, I don't think that you all may need it, but usually when I teach writing to heal, whatever style of writing you use, and whenever you use that style of writing, it's important to do this thing called a post-writing questionnaire because the numbers give us an idea of how we are progressing in life. So what you would find is that you might start off with one score, and as time goes by, that score changes, which tells you that, yes, things are changing. And depending on the direction in which the numbers change, you will know if you are getting better or if you have backslidden a little bit. And if then it tells you, what changes you have to make, whether you have to improve or, well, hopefully it's always to improve. Okay, so what's next? I just took this slide from the whole program. So you didn't just complete a structured program. You have just completed one session, one customized session of Writing to Heal. And but the thing is that that session is just like talking about the legacy that you want to leave. But sometimes you have issues that you have to deal with on a daily basis. If you use this technique on a daily basis, it can become exhausting and you're going to find that not much is going to change from day to day. If you use any one of the single techniques in Writing to Heal, the program that I teach, if you use those every day, they can become exhausting, emotionally intense, triggering, and disruptive, but they're helpful for when you have to deal with immediate trauma. But those styles of writing are not for everyday use. And there is another option. There is something called the circadian rhythms, and I played on the word rhythms there. It's a 6-session program in which I share techniques for you to overcome daily challenges, to develop a success perspective so that you can get going if you're stuck and help you to step boldly into your divine purpose. The thing with that is that program is different from the other programs that I do because this one is a paid session, paid program, and it starts on the 2nd of August. So if you all are interested, feel free to contact Delano, let him know, contact me. I'm not going to share my contact because this is not really, although I'm sharing this with you, I'm not really advertising. So if you are so moved and you want to, you can feel free to talk to Delano and then get to me through him. But I'm not actually giving out the contact because I don't want you to feel that I'm putting pressure on you. I'm not. And wrapping things up, I want you to continue this writing exercise using the three choices. Any one of the three, and in fact, I would prefer if you can do all three. Try to make writing part of your daily routine. It doesn't have to be in the style that we did it today. It could just be as simple as writing down your thoughts, but do it reflectively, like I spoke about earlier. And remember to be compassionate with others, yes, but with yourself as well, because you're important too. And with that, we come to the end. And in our ending is your beginning, because this is where you're going to be starting anew with a different perspective that you hopefully would have gained from what we did today. So I'm going to close off as we started and as I end and begin all Writing to Heal sessions. We're going to end with prayer. So, Heavenly Father, you are the author of our lives. We thank you for our pages, good and bad. Thank you for Delano, his vision, commitment, and collaboration. Thank you for each person here today and for your blessings of community and opportunity. Thank you for the things made known to us today. We pray for your help to know how to apply what we gain today for healing according to your will. Help us to make wise choices throughout the week and all coming weeks as we move toward closer to the pageant and generally in life. Help us to sift through our emotional and mental and even our spiritual blockages. Lord, thank you for the time we shared and for the legacies that we are creating, all for your honor and glory. For when it is weak, then we are strong in you. We pray that we can love ourselves and others as you loved us first. Let us all be a source of light to others, knowing that you are the true light and that without you, our flames will flicker and be extinguished. Lord, we pray that your purpose for every one of us will be revealed today, and that not just today, but in your timing, and that we will continue to walk the path that is laid before us courageously, knowing that though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, your rod and staff comfort us. We thank you for your blessings. I thank you for every person here. I thank you for the contributions. And thank you for Delano for bringing us all together. In Jesus' name we pray and believe. Amen. So thank you, ladies. And on that, we come to an end. And hopefully this is not the end of this part of our journey together. See you all soon. Bye-bye.